Welcome to the Gleeful Meeple, a podcast all about board games where strategy meets laughter and drafting dice means more cake. In this episode, we're joined by a special guest as we flip through the pages of rulebooks and discuss our frustrations and appreciations in their design. We try to entice nobles, artists, citizens, and tourists to stay in our hotels. In this week's game of the show, Grand Austria Hotel. And you, the Gleeples, get to play along as the hosts get put in the hot seat with this week's game challenge. So hire more staff and prepare tasty food and beverages because those hotel rooms aren't going to fill themselves and the Emperor's on the way. Will you impress by being the most successful hotelier? Hey, fellow hoteliers.
Well, hey, guys.
Oh, my God. I am so excited for this episode, everybody.
Hey, everybody. I'm James.
I'm Emily.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Dwayne.
And I'm JK, and my preferred mac and cheese is Velveeta mac and cheese.
Good choice. Good choice.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Solid.
I like some of the Cracker Barrel selections that are out there now.
Ooh, I haven't tried that.
They're kind of nice. There's 2 or 3 different flavors.
Nice.
I feel like I still go to Kraft for the nostalgia, though.
The powder, or have they come up with anything better for the cheese yet?
I don't think so.
Do they need to?
They do.
If they do, it's not
awful.
nostalgic anymore.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think the hierarchy starting at the bottom is Kraft mac and cheese, Velveeta mac and cheese, and somewhere towards the tip top is that like pre-made Panera mac and cheese that you get in little cups. That is amazingly good. Also, did not know this is a topic, but ready to do a deep dive on some mac and cheese.
I didn't realize what sort of Pandora's
Cheese box.
cheese
box.
Yeah, I was starting here.
Pandora's cheese wheel.
Hey, y'all, you're probably hearing a new and unusual voice on the podcast today, and we'll get back to that in a second. But first, James.
Hey, guys. Guess what?
Oh my God! I hope you have a riddle for
I
us.
do.
All right.
And it's gonna put you to the test. It's a one-line riddle,
Okay.
but I have faith in you.
Now, can I get clarification on the rules? Can I shout it out the moment I know it, or am I supposed to wait until the end?
Please save us and shout it out the moment you know.
Okay.
Sometimes, for some behind the scenes, there's intense staring at each other when we definitely know what the answer is, and we're just like, almost kind of like the gentlemanly, like,
Who's going to call it? Who's going to call it?
Yes, please. I'm hoping you'll know it after line 1.
Okay.
But if not, I got some backup lines
Oh,
I like
okay.
to throw you a softball. Do you need a softball?
We'll find out.
Yeah, give me a softball, man. I've never done this.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ryan. We're all out of softballs.
Fastball coming your way.
Woo!
A pair of doors separates life and death.
And we're off to a rocking start.
Is that
Those stairs Emily was talking about, they're happening right now.
now? Is that pair spelled P-A-I?
Yes, Dwayne.
Pair of doors.
Separates life and death.
Death.
A few of you played this recently.
That's Monopoly.
Oh, I didn't mention
Yeah.
anything about paper money, Ryan.
No, I mean, you know.
Oh. Okay. This is a shot in the dark. There's not a lot to go off there. Is it Cthulhu Death May Die?
It's not.
Okay.
I'm glad you said that because that was the direction I was going
Well,
too.
so doors are definitely the important aspect to this.
There's a pair of doors that's separating life and death. Do you want clues on the line or do you want another line?
Give us another line.
A tug of war with changing teams.
Is it 2 rooms and a boom?
It is 2
Oh,
rooms and a boom.
nice.
Emily,
Nice.
nailing it.
Well played.
Yeah, we had a little resurgence of that game after Gen Con. We got to play it at an event recently. It went very well.
And like, my first roll, we played, 2 games of it?
Yeah.
The
at least
first
2.
game, I was the mime, which is a social deduction game. And I was the mime, and my role meant I could not talk. And so every time someone wanted to be like, hey, do you want to do a color share? So you could see like what team I'm on. I would just nod my head and they'd be like, oh, and then just walk away. So that was not a fun round for me, but the next one was much more fun.
Nice.
I wonder if there's any benefits to bluffing the mime in that game.
Someone
Ooh,
tried.
like to be an alternate player and not say anything as well.
Right.
Yeah, just like pretending to be the mime. Someone started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, but they like dropped the act pretty quickly. So I don't know.
This
what
is
was
a
going
terrible
on.
idea.
Yeah.
How would the two of you confront each other?
It just point. Shit.
JK, this is an audio format. This isn't.
Well, mimes are hard, and that's why all the mime podcasts fail pretty quickly.
I mean, you don't want to overdo the amount of mimes in Two Rooms and a Boom because a mime is a terrible thing to waste.
Well done. I hope you're proud of
Thank you.
yourself.
I
I know I
found
am.
a way.
I am.
You found a way to sneak it in there.
That is I remember my first time playing that game. That was at Origins, I believe, that we tried that out, and it was absolutely amazing. Like
That was my first time too, and I'm
one-
not a
one
social
of the-
deduction gamer,
Yeah,
and it was good.
Yeah, because because I think what really benefits it is how fast it plays. I think even at the max number of players, it's only 15 minutes or so. It plays quick. It's a lot of fun, and if you get a bad character, play again.
you got 15 minutes.
Yep.
Done. Yep.
Make the most of it.
All right, so we mentioned we've got another person in the room with us today, guys.
Who's here?
This is Ryan Lessard, who has been a long-time member of the Gleeful Meeple
I've
group.
served my terms.
Yeah, going back almost 8 years, I think.
Yeah, that would be 2 terms.
Yeah.
I moved here in 2017, and I started going to the group at 2017.
That's awesome. Who's your favorite person in the group?
Man.
Getting spicier off the bat.
You know what? Honestly, I think the group itself is my favorite person in the group. How about that?
Does
that work?
That's a good.
Yeah, that was a
good,
little
safe
suck-uppy,
answer.
wasn't
The
it?
we is his favorite person.
The
Yeah.
we collective. It was appropriate to have obviously be with JK here because he was the one hosting the first event I ever went to, which was at that place that had really bad parking. Yeah, by the way, bad parking. Yeah, that's a topic.
Yes.
But it never had good parking, and it shut down eventually.
Yes.
But it was I can't remember.
I
the
think
name
it was
of that.
called the Hop Stop.
The Hop Stop. There you go. And JK put me, and I believe I played with 2 of our other Gleefuls, Blake and Chandra, and we played 5 tribes.
Yep.
You taught me 5 tribes, and I fell in love with you.
Oh, thank you.
I couldn't stop taking my eyes off.
That
No,
kind of
that's
thing
5
happens.
tribes.
That happens a lot around here.
Yeah.
No, it was so much fun, and you guys were like super chill, very just, like it was amazing, and so I was hooked. I mean, this group, this is one of the most welcoming, warm, like just amazing groups to ever be a part of. So I've enjoyed it.
Aw.
I've liked it.
Thanks, Ryan. You
tolerate it.
earned your money on the podcast.
Hey,
Good
how
job.
about that? I'll cash my 2-cent check.
Ryan, what do you do for a living?
I'm a quality assurance engineer working at L3 Harris, which is a military defense contracting. Don't need to get into that too much, but basically,
Were you even allowed to tell us that? Like, are we all in danger of dying now?
no, I'm in danger
Okay.
of dying every day. Every day it's life ticking away. I'm getting serious. But no, it is basically my job is quality assurance, checking, making sure that things are working to the specs that they need to be, and then obviously making sure that we release a product that is stable.
Would another way of saying that be that you are a professional at finding faults in things?
I'm a professional at arguing faults at things.
Well, folks, that's why we brought Ryan onto the show today. We wanted to have a discussion about rule books. One of the things I've known Ryan for almost 8 years now, one of the things I know will happen without fail is if we reach a point where there's any sort of doubt about what to do in the game, Ryan is going to be the guy that says, let me see the rule book. Often when he's losing, that's one of the key components as well.
And when he's not even the one running the game.
Oh, that's a fair point.
But Ryan will do a good job of kind of like parsing through the rule book and figuring out whether we're on the right path, whether we've screwed up the game, or whether it's something that can be mitigated going forward. Ryan, what are some of your favorite games in general, but then in particular, what do you really like about a good, well-written rulebook?
So games that I generally like are ones that I think become self-evident as you're playing that, oh, this totally makes sense. Why this would occur, why this action would do this, why this would do this. Symbology is one of my biggest, like, if you do good symbols in a game and they stand out and they work, I love it. Like, that way it's just, I know what the star means, I know what a circle means, you get that kind of imagery in your head. That's the visualization that I like in a game to make it just more streamlined, and it just eases the process. What makes a good rule book is something that it's really difficult to say, because like there are so many different variants of how to go about doing a rule book. Just like when you're teaching a game. When you're teaching a game, what do you kind of want to start with? Do you want to start with the theme of the game? Do you want to start with how do you win the game? Do you want to start with what are the basic ideas of how you play the game? There are so many ways to teach a game. So a rulebook should follow kind of a guideline like that. So typically I like a start, give me a theme, give me where, you can give me the base theme at the start. Obviously need the setup page. A setup page is also can be very tricky to do for some games.
Yes.
It's like they don't understand how their game is actually set up. Give me a diagram. Put the game out there. 4-player version of the game. Do not do 3. Do not do 2. Do 4-player setup. Have every part of the setup numbered and ordered, so you can just look and go, okay, this, okay, this, okay, this. Do it step by step. Everything that makes sense. Put the board here, do this, do that. Because you want to make sure that you're not missing any of the key pivotal things. Like, put the cards here, but you actually need to shuffle 3 cards into this one, but you need to remember to do that later on, but, worry about it later.
Yeah, one of my favorite versions are things that great rule books do, and you might see this more in heavier, complicated games just because there's more components, but they'll do that for the board setup, numbered individual things, both for the board setup and then a separate one for the player setup.
Yeah, that's something
they have
I've
2 separate sets.
I've seen more and more
so
of
nice.
recently where it's like this is the main board setup and then each player, and that makes it easy because usually I can, if it's something I play pretty frequently, I can remember a lot of the main board stuff, but that individual, especially when it comes down to the second player, will get an additional coin. Like, I like when that's separated so I can go right to that player setup section and start reading that.
Yeah.
Another important thing when you're showing those diagrams of how to set it up, at the sacrifice of making your rulebook slightly smaller, make your rulebook a little bit larger so that font size is not 10-point font trying to read. That makes your eyes glaze over and you go, what is happening?
For our group in particular, even like trying to read a rule book in a slightly dimly lit room is even a greater nightmare.
You can imagine many pubs and bars
Yeah.
might have dimly lit rooms.
That's what, like, I've played games recently with a friend who's visually impaired, and if the player aids or like just the cards that we're playing with are slightly smaller font, having that at the normal, accessibly sized font in the rulebook as a reference, like, that's just so important. And like to Ryan's point, like, yeah, like if your eyes start glazing over because this rulebook is hard to understand, you're gonna miss very important components.
No Comic Sans either.
Yeah. Well, I think
Everything must be in Comic Sans.
Look, I mean, it at a sacrifice of potentially real estate in your board or like how your rule book kind of fits in that box, like, it's worth it in spades. If you are doing 10-point font for your font size in a rule book, it is trash because it's hard to kind of follow along with how this is supposed to operate. Give it some pizzazz, man. I mean, like, you can make those words bolded a little bit. You can italicize some things. I mean, give it some flavor, but I mean, I would say minimum 12 to 14-point font for sure.
Okay, so we got the setup, we got the theme, introduction kind of in our rule book. We got our setup. What's next?
Right. So, you get your setup. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go over, for me, a brief explanation of how the game is played. I like a midsection where it tells you a little bit about what you're going to be doing. And I'm not talking in depth. I'm saying this is a worker placement game where you're going to be placing people on the board and taking various actions, blah, blah, blah.
There'll be 4 rounds with 3
There will
turns
be
per
4
round.
rounds with that. So what that
Yeah.
does is it reinforces kind of the idea of what you're going to be doing and what the expectation of the game is. So that way you're like, okay, I understand that now. So then you can lean into, okay, here's what you do for the first turn. Here's, if there's rounds, what are you doing per each round? What are the different actions that you can do? Now, this is another pet peeve I have with some in rule books. They do actions out of order of how a round should structure, mainly because they're like, well, it makes sense because when you come back to this action, it'll make more sense. No. You tell me in the order that it needs to be done. Even if it includes an action that you haven't even learned yet, write a little blurb about that action.
Page 12.
You could say page 12, or you could give a brief summary of this action will actually do this, and this, but we will talk more about it on page 12. Something to give the player a notice that, hey, okay, I'm going to learn something new, but I kind of can tie this with this. Making players have to go and flip between the pages just to know, okay, wait, how does which action do I start with? It doesn't work, because then people get confused and they get frustrated. And that's the last thing you want to do in your rule book, is frustrate any of the players.
Right. You mentioned kind of like the process that you look for in a rule book, how it explains the game in total. And I know the majority of rule books that I see go through that and then have an end of game status that kind of tells you what the end result looks like. Mm-hmm. What do you think about also early in the rule book telling you what the end game goal is, like giving you the idea of what you're trying to do and then explaining how you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think at the beginning of the rule book, you have kind of your theme, your flavor, whatever, you're performing, and then you have a brief rundown of, this is a worker placement game, your object of the game is X amount of points, blah, blah, blah. Like something that just gives a brief, nice, down to and dirty, like here's what you're doing.
What about house rules? What's your opinion on fan-made rules, your experience with those, variants of games? What are your thoughts on all that?
So for me, it is more dependent on the type of game. If we're talking a more casual, light affair kind of game, then I'm totally down with house rules on certain elements. If you are talking about a heavier kind of, this is going to be a 3 to 4 hour long game, I want to play the game the way the game was intended. I want to get that experience, and I want to say that I won based off that experience or lost based off that experience. Mostly loss.
We saw at one of our recent events, somebody in the group picked up the game Fun Facts, and I've got it as well. It's from the makers of Just One and So Clover. It's another party game.
Oh, yeah.
It plays well, but it particularly plays well when you're playing with a group that you all know each other and know each other well, because the idea behind the game is you're all putting down a statistic for yourself, and whoever's in charge of that round is ranking them on the way they think their friends are going to fall. Well, it turned out a group of ours was playing Fun Facts incorrectly. And I walked over and I sat down at the table and I was like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, this is how you play it. I was like, no, you're doing it completely wrong. But what was interesting is the way they were doing it worked better for a group that didn't know each other as well. So it was interesting to see how they kind of, and they didn't do this by design. It just happened to work out that way, but they modified the rules that actually made it a workable game, whether you know the people or not. And it was interesting. I wonder if the designers.
What were they? Now I got to know. Yeah.
So in a standard round, it's going to ask you a question. You might say, how many miles away? How long is your commute to work in minutes? And every single person in the game writes down their answer on the back of a little placard, and then whoever's the guesser for that round takes all of the placards and ranks them in the order that they think the answer on the other side is going to be, from lowest to highest or highest to lowest, whatever
That
the
is
case may
never
be.
how I played that game.
Really?
Are you sure that's the right way
It
to play
is,
that
it
game?
is, yeah. What they were doing was everybody
Can
had-
we check the rule book, please?
yeah. As people were putting their own placard in, they were guessing where they were.
That's how
in the
I've
ranking.
That's
always
how
played
I've
it.
been playing
It's
too.
not correct.
Interesting.
Yes, it is
Who
not
taught us the
correct.
game, Dwayne? We got to figure out who.
Who did teach us that?
Well,
Yeah, that's the first
Well,
time I
and here's
ran
the
into
thing.
it.
Here's why I feel like it would be correct, because another rule that we use is everyone does that, right? They put it out where they think, either top, bottom, splitting it, putting it where they want it. And the first person in that round, because they don't have anything to go off of.
They
right?
can move theirs to where they think it's appropriate.
to wherever it goes.
Yeah,
Which
it's-
would only make
right.
sense if you're
That's
playing that way.
that's totally not the game.
What?
But it works really well in a group that doesn't know
So
each other.
after this podcast, I
We're gonna
100%
look at
want to
the
look at the rule book because I think you're wrong.
Oh, I'm eyeballing it on my shelf right now.
Breaking news: podcast host gets game rules wrong.
Please hold for rules clarification.
Oh, is this happening right now?
This is happening.
Please
This is
pause
happening.
for rules clarification. Also,
Yeah, I guess we have to decide if we have to ditch this part of the podcast or not.
I
This
know.
is actually fascinating. We might trim it down.
Yeah, I'll trim it down.
I love that we are having a rules request during a rules conference. I
This
love
has
this.
to happen.
This is the most on brand.
Read into the microphone.
Before you do that,
Players will try to place their answers in ascending order.
There you go.
So, JK, you told them that they were
So
playing
you've been teaching
it
this game wrong to
incorrectly.
thousands of people,
I have,
JK.
I have.
All right.
Wow. So
So the way
what
they're
the
playing
heck
it
did I
is a
read?
fun way.
How did I see this somewhere? I think I watched a YouTube video that discussed it.
Was it a prototype
JK,
version of Fun Facts?
I'm not gonna lie; it could have very well been me teaching you
I don't
and
think so.
incorrectly doing it the first time.
I don't think
it
so,
is
because I
very
think
possible.
I was one of the first ones in our group to buy this. I think.
Trio was another one I messed up so bad. I messed that one up.
yeah, Ryan teaches it to a group. I'm not a part of this group. Ryan teaches it to a group before I ever play it. And then I went to go play Trio with the group that Ryan taught without Ryan. And they kind of like explain it to me. Once again, sometimes I just like to read it. So as they're explaining it to me, I'm reading the rule book and I'm like, this isn't adding up. Like, you can't just pick up a 7 and combine it with the 2 7s in the middle of your hand. Because the whole thing is you can only work with the cards on the outside of your hand. And they're like, well, no, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're arguing back. And I'm like, I don't think so. And they're like, well, Ryan taught us. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
I keep
Also,
going-
should
yes.
give red flags to anyone.
JK keeps opening this
I
rule
keep
book.
opening the rule book, expecting it to change to the way I wanted.
so-
it.
That's how I do my refrigerator.
Yeah,
I
that's-
understand.
So here's the thing. I mean, I'm very guilty of teaching games incorrectly. It happens. There is going to be times where you've only played the game a little bit and you're like, okay, I think I got the hang of it, and you're going to miss one role. Role player was another one that you, me, and Kyle were playing together, and I missed that you had to put out another, like, I think it was another item with like +1 of the number of players and another initiative card.
Oh, yeah.
So I just missed that completely. To me, I don't feel like that really hurt much, but it probably it doesn't.
You
give
created some limitations. in the
It
game
created
that
more
should have been there, yeah.
limitations, which makes the game a little bit less enjoyable, which is completely not my intention when I'm trying to teach a game. So I'm very guilty of doing that. I think, everyone can say like they've missed a rule once. Maybe not Dwayne.
Ryan, are there any particular rule books that stand out to you as being bad?
Oh, bad?
Yeah.
You guys talked about this on one of the previous podcasts. There was a game that we played at Tennessee Game Days. It was Unchained, I think it was called.
Oh my goodness. That was not a great experience.
That rule book can just rot. It literally de-incentivized us to play the game.
Yeah.
Like
We were done.
it discouraged us. I've never had a rule book go, this is so frustrating. Even though the game's premise seems awesome, this is terrible. And I cannot experience it because I cannot understand what they're trying to go for.
I was angry with that game because I couldn't tell if it was the rulebook's fault or if the game mechanic was just kind of silly.
And that's infuriating.
Yeah.
Do you know who the designer was or where it came from?
I can look it up.
It is
but
based on another. I think it's based on Nightfall, maybe, but that's me probably not right about something.
I remember that was the most clear one that I remember going through the rulebook and going, "Oh, okay, this is not helping at all."
Oh, I have a. Go ahead, James.
I was going to say a lot of big companies actually hire out people to write their rule books. Like some will do it in house, but
Trick or
they'll
Treat
actually
Studios
hire people to do
Trick
it.
or Treat Studios.
Good at writing rule books. It's hard.
I have a rule book that I want to put on full blast because I just sat down to learn it, and that is Who Goes There, which is basically the story that gave us the thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and Ryan, this goes back to what you were saying. It gives you, hey, here are the steps you've taken in the game. After it gives you a summary of the steps, what is everybody expecting the next thing to be? I'll go ahead and answer for me. It is take me through each one of those steps that you just listed quickly. This game's just like, nope, now we're just going to start throwing terms at you in alphabetical order. And I'm like, I could not, sitting down, trying to figure out the first stage of the game, I'm like, where in this rule book am I supposed to flip to figure out exactly what it wants me to do with the food supply? Like, this is ridiculous. I've never been quite so angry reading a rule book.
So they should have called it Who Goes There How?
They should just do.
How do we
the
get
rules.
there? Is really what the game should be called.
And the worst part is, it's the second edition. They should have cleaned.
You
that
had
up
another
between
opportunity.
You had a second chance.
a second chance.
Unacceptable.
Well, one thing that I wonder, and I don't believe Trick or Treat Studio falls under this, and I'm trying to see what the maker is on Who Goes There.
Certifiable games.
Are they based in the States?
I don't know for sure.
Because I
know where you're going.
I do wonder when we encounter rulebook issues, how often are we seeing rulebook issues because of poor translation?
That
a
could
lot.
be.
I will say this though, even if there's poor translation, right, there has to be some form of quality control that someone's going to look at that rule book and go, okay, for English speaking people, this context makes no sense.
Right.
Let me reword it to make it sense. Localization does that all the time in video games, and I feel like there should be some sort of check and balance.
Ryan, that's how we get someone to
like,
set us up the bomb, though.
That's kind of like all your base are belong to us went through a quality check. Is that it?
Yeah, a great example of a recent one of that was Three Ring Circus by Devere, which
I think it was Devere, yeah.
I've heard other people call it Dever or differently.
It is.
I've heard it demure.
It is a Spanish word.
So,
okay.
James, you say
that was a
tomato,
joke.
I say tomato. It's the people who say tomato that we have to be worried about.
That's fair.
Tomatoes.
But it was a translation issue, and it's spread like wildfire across all the YouTube creators about everyone just maybe playing it right or maybe playing it wrong. And it required looking it up online to solve the problem. So yeah, translations can be a bad thing, but bad translations don't bother me as much if the structure of the rule book is good. I can still at least focus on that one thing to try to figure it out and know where it lands in the scheme of the game, rather than, to your point, Dwayne, wondering, I don't even understand the scheme of the game. I don't understand the structure, what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say one of my favorite things that can be added to a rule book to really like knock it into your head is how a turn actually plays out. Like fictionally, the designers go, Sarah takes this turn. She does this.
Give me
examples.
examples.
She takes this.
Yeah.
Like you read through it and you go, oh, okay. Yeah, so she gets that because he took that action. Got it.
It can be a little upsetting when you're reading something and then there's an example and you're like, okay, that example is good, but I'm thinking I already see another scenario here that I have questions about, and this example is not covering
That's what
it.
I was just about to... Yeah, I was thinking that too. One rule book I like to call out, like On Tour, the roll and write game, has a frequently missed rules or like a frequently like misunderstood rules.
Yeah.
Where it's just like a little section where it's like after playtesting, I'm assuming like normal scenarios, whatever.
It's like the designer said, hey, for some reason we have a problem making this clear.
Yeah. So just like if you have a question, like look in this little corner first, and it like if you're second guessing yourself, the answer is right there.
That's nice.
I love that, and I would say as people who teach the same game over and over, we've probably run into that thing. It's like, why? I know I say this every time. Why is it? It is this one rule that everyone's. Oh, you didn't tell me that. I certainly did.
Oh my
4
gosh.
different ways, but I guess not.
So I guess those
That
things
is
happen when they're
my-
playtesting, and that's how we get the frequently missed
That
questions.
is my trigger. I cannot stand when someone says something like that, because that is something that someone can easily say to be a reason why they're not doing so well in the game. So they're just using that as an excuse. And 2, it's not, you're blaming the teacher on something that maybe you did not hear. So a better way of approaching it is, I wasn't quite sure if this was the action, or ask the teacher. Like, actually, before you even say, I didn't know that, just ask the teacher.
Well, to that point, and I think rulebooks could really help here in this instance, key points in the game that you need to explain to players should be bolded throughout the rulebook, emphasized. I don't care how you do it in the font or in bold print or whatever. If there's some subtle nuance in the game that happens every now and then, but it's a key element of the game, don't bury this at the bottom of a page or hidden in a paragraph somewhere, because I'm not going to catch it in the teach. And then partway through the game, I'm going to realize I haven't mentioned this and go, oh, by the way. And that at that point, everybody's upset with me because I've forgotten the part that really wasn't emphasized by the designer.
That's what, like, yeah, I think about, like, what I look for in rule books, and it's like, what does a round look like? What does resetting a round look like? If there's, like, if it's a turn or a round that has, like, 2 phases, what does, like, phase A and phase B look like? What triggers end game? What does end game look like? Scoring. Like, I think about Cascadia or Parks, where you have scores from a lot of different places. And so it's like you need to know what those all look like.
Yeah, one of my biggest pet peeves, to your point, JK, with rule books is when they hide important things in like notes or italics somewhere.
That-
like,
Yeah,
I
or on a
had
side
that.
panel.
I've had that happen on some of the newer games where an important rule is in a note of it, where it basically, you know it's a note because the way they do notes is it's in a square
we have little
box.
Like, it's a different color.
It's a different color. So you go, oh, this is just re-solidifying the action. You don't read it.
Yeah,
And then
it's an actual rule.
it's an actual important rule. I've had that happen several times. That is not how you do this.
And it's almost more infuriating when they word it like, and I've seen this. They'll be like, "Don't forget, ba 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 ba." Like, don't forget. You haven't told me it once yet. There's nothing to forget. Don't act like you've said this before. Like, oh, it's so annoying. I just had a recent rule book. I think it was Sparks actually that did that. It was a Gen Con game I was learning. I want to say it was Sparks, but yeah, they put a really important thing in this little note box. I'm like, why would you do that? I'm just going to gloss right over it and thinking it's flavor text or something.
Absolutely.
Hey, game manufacturers, I'm going to save you a whole paragraph on your rule book. Stop telling me really cutesy ways to figure out who the start player in the game is.
You talked about this way too early. I wanted to bring it up. I adore it. Game makers, don't stop doing it.
No.
There was a game, I was looking this up before our recording too. There's a game, Gloom. Their first start player is whoever had the worst day that day. Azul, whoever went to Portugal last, which is a little niche, but whatever. It's cute. It's in theme. And then, what was the other one?
Even Parks.
Parks, like whoever
visited a national park,
whoever was the most recent to visit a national park would be the first player in Parks.
I like
Batman Love Letter is one of my favorites because it's the person who most recently dispensed justice onto the world.
For game, here's the deal: the cutesy way of saying who goes first are typically light to mid-light games. They're never really your medium heavy. You're gonna be games that are a little bit more chill. If a Euro game starts with whoever first capitalized on the European sanctions of 1927.
Like, I know Fromage is coming out soon. I want the first player to be like, whoever recently had a bowel movement. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Work through that cheese. I'm with you. Speaking of heavy Euros that do have that, Brew Crafters is whoever most recently had a beer, which is on theme, and also, since we play at breweries, an achievable goal.
Tie.
Yeah, a very achievable goal. I think that there is some, because the thing is, at a certain point, someone has to be first player, right? So like, a lot of games will say randomly choose first player, right? So what do? You Schwazi, or you put your pieces in your hand.
That's what we're going to do anyway for the most part.
Yeah, exactly. And you're going to do that. But there is some fun because, like, say for parks, for example, when you're like saying who was the first one to go to a park, everyone can kind of say, well, I did this. I actually visited this recently. And you can kind of have a conversation based off of these.
Who wants to have a conversation when we're trying to play a board game?
Yeah.
Friends.
Said a man with a microphone.
Well, I think game publishers and makers could learn a lot just by looking at their peers, by looking at other game makers and learning from those lessons. But I can say one thing to all the publishers out there. If I'm sitting in my game room and I'm feeling motivated to get a game off my shelf of opportunity, and I open it up and the rule book makes me want to put it back on the shelf of opportunity, then you've done
wrong. Yeah.
Don't make the
absolutely.
rule book the reason I don't want to play the game.
Good point, James.
Ryan, thank you for joining us on our exploration of rule books, and we loved having you here. We're going to keep you around for one more segment later in the show.
Hey.
And those of you that play Fun Facts with me in the future, don't let me teach you. I'm totally wrong.
All right, Gleeples, I've been waiting a long time for this day. This episode's game of the show is Grand Austria Hotel. Grand Austria Hotel is published by Lookout Games. It was designed by Simone Luciani and Virginio Gili. The art is done by Clemens Franz. It was released in 2015, plays 2 to 4 players, but it's at its most gleeful at 2 players. JK, walk us through Grand Austria Hotel.
In Grand Austria Hotel, you are the owner and purveyor of, guess what, a hotel. And you are responsible for a number of things throughout the game. You are going to score points by opening and preparing rooms for guests to take them over. You will also be trying to recruit guests into your hotel by plying them with the food and drink that they wish to consume. You also have to manage a staff that runs this hotel. Getting key members of the staff to your team will help drive your victory in the end. This game is played by managing dice rolls. At the start of every turn, a pool of dice will be rolled and then separated into the core numbers of 1 through 6. 1 and 2 allow you to get those food and beverage items. 3 allows you to open up the rooms. 4 gets you a little cash or helps impress the emperor on how nice your hotel is. 5 gets you the staff members. And 6 gives you any one of those actions to a little bit diminished results. You're going to do this over the course of 9 turns? 7 turns, with 3 visits from the Emperor coming throughout the game. The Emperor is looking at the quality of your hotel, and if they feel that it is not up to standards, you're going to suffer some serious detriment. In the end, it's all about points. You want to try to get as many guests in rooms as you can, get the appropriate staff, impress the Emperor, accomplish all those things, and you will be the winner of Grand Austria Hotel.
All right, so I will say, because we played Grand Austria at 4 players, I did include one of the modules from the expansion, which is a small adjustment. We put in the skeleton key, which means there is an additional action where you can take the skeleton key. That means you will be the first player in the next round. The player who will be third player for the next round will get $1. The fourth player will get $2. It also lets you take any food or drink of your choice and also take any action on the board. board at a strength of 1. The other thing that the skeleton key does that's kind of interesting is in the base game, Grand Austria is a snake draft. So if I am the first player, we're going to go around the table, and then I will also be the 8th player to choose a die. With the skeleton key, we're just going to go ahead and do around the table twice. So the skeleton key provides some changes to the game, but I think is a necessary adjustment for 4 players. To me, that's probably why it's considered best at 2 for the base game, is because of there's a little bit of a wait time when you do snake draft for 4 players.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy, there's so many things I like about this game. The theme is so good. Like, I just can't imagine any other theme on this game. The little pieces, getting the food and drink on your cafe visitors and then getting them to their room, so satisfying. The way that some of their awards and abilities will trigger, and your staff abilities trigger off of the guest to create this little mini engine is fantastic.
It's so well executed.
It is. It didn't hurt that you were playing, again, we've kind of covered this in past episodes as well by sheer luck of who owns the game, but we were playing a heavily upgraded version of this game that was really impressive.
Oh yeah, I originally played this version, this Deluxe Grand Austria Hotel Deluxe. I originally played that at Tennessee Games Day. I think maybe 2021. I waited forever to find this version of the game at a reasonable price because it is just so much better produced than the base game. Base game's fine.
Yeah,
it plays the same, but the art that they upgraded the art, they upgraded the components, which I also upgraded again because I found little 3D pieces that I loved. So yeah, we were playing a very stream of a very deluxeified version.
Going back to what you were saying, how the theme is integrated so well, even on the player board itself. JK was talking about during the run through that you're trying to serve your guests the food and drink that they want, so they'll want to stay in your hotel. And visually, as it's laid out in front of you on your player board, the lower portion of it, you have room for 3 tables where it's kind of like the cafe on the bottom floor of the hotel. And you can have up to 3 cards basically down there representing those tables. But once you find a matching room for that guest, they move from the table upstairs, quote unquote, into the hotel. So even visually, you kind of have that downstairs cafe, and then they're being, escorted up to a room upstairs. Even visually, it just made sense.
Yeah.
Emily, what's going on?
Just remembering when I played the first game and it was like those cubes, and I'm like, oh yeah, they were cubes, and so I'm looking at pictures again.
I actually have the cube version. I feel very inferior to Dwayne's.
Yeah. There are like Etsy sellers out there. Even if you buy a more recent retail version, there's plenty of upgraded bit options if you want it.
Okay, so let's talk about the game we played, because I want to venture into my happiness and my frustration here. You start the game with 5 employees. In your
6. Yeah, did we do a draft?
We did
not.
We did
yeah,
not.
We were trying to save time, so we did not do a draft.
And I feel like that's one element of the game that might be a must do.
Yeah, I agree. If it just adds that much more time because we're kind of we're trying to get people home and to their jobs the next day. So, something contingencies had to be made.
Yeah, if you can synergize staff cards, it can make a big swing in the game.
Yeah. So I had out of the staff in my hand, and a key element to this game is that the staff that you have in your hand that you start with are not necessarily immediately applied to your hotel. You have to pay to bring them onto the active team.
I always think of that. Your hand is your HR pool. Those are all the applications you have, and then when you take a 5, you actually hire the staff member.
That's a great way to think about it.
When I looked at my hand and the employees that I had available to me, one of them allowed me to open up blue colored rooms for free. And there's 3 colors of room. There's blue, red, and yellow. And I was like, ooh, this is a great card. That's going to save me so much money over the course of the game. I also had a card that allowed me to open yellow rooms for free.
That is a nice combo.
And I'm like, wow, this is great.
Wait, and you wanted to draft with that starting combo? You would have never seen those. Those cards would never made it back to you.
2/3 of my rooms that I have to open, which is a considerable expense throughout the game, I'm now doing for free. And I felt this was even better complemented by the fact that I had a card that allowed me, every time I moved a red guest to a red room, I took a cash incentive for doing so.
Yeah.
I had you guys. I was guaranteed a win. And then do you want to care to guess how many red guests we saw once I put that guy into play?
Not many.
Well, how
Very
many we
minimal.
saw versus how many you had the opportunity to
There you go.
invite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The number that I had the opportunity to take, that's 0. I was never able to utilize that power, and that just killed me throughout the game.
I will say there's a number of things that this game does that it's actually one of my positives that I as I was thinking back on our play about the design aspect that really stands out to me is that they give you lots of ways to never feel like you're stuck in a corner and can't be effective in what you're trying to do. But I was not in that position that you were in where that card was kind of useless to you because of that unfortunate card draw.
Yeah.
But they do a number of things in the game that really do open it up for you, like being able to pass, 6s are wild, the skeleton key from the Let's Waltz area. Like these 3 things combined a lot gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of mitigate being last player in turn order, when the dice don't go your way, and other areas where you might kind of feel like you're locked out. But yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, one thing that is a key rule that we didn't talk about in the intro is the passing rule. So you are allowed to skip either portion 1 or portion 2 of your turn and pass. When you do that, whatever dice are remaining in the die pool, you remove 1 die, throw it in the trash, essentially.
After all the other players have taken their turns.
After all the other players have gone, you remove 1 die from that pool and throw it in the trash, take all the remaining die, and re-roll them. So you're looking at entirely possibly different results than what were available to you when you originally had your turn. Now, it's kind of a crapshoot. You might get the dice you need, you might not. And in that case, you can pass again, potentially trash another die and roll again. There's kind of diminishing returns there, but you might get the result you need as opposed to what's out there.
It's always fun to watch when there's only one player that passes and they just can't get, like they need 2 numbers of the same number or 6s because 6s will work for anything. And it's fun to watch them take a die away and re-roll. Take a die away, re-roll.
I feel targeted again.
That's what, JK and I used that mechanic a couple of times, and I think every time we did, we got the result we wanted on the 3rd
Eventually.
roll, which is stressful.
Yeah, you're having to make a lot of plan B's and C's.
You're doing the statistics in your head. It's very stressful. This is an audio format, so obviously people can't see my reaction to James's previous statement, but I just found it so funny that you mentioned feeling like it was an open game, like they let you do a lot to like make it feel effective. I have never felt more restricted in a game. Except maybe in Lords of Waterdeep, but I think that was because I just didn't understand what I was doing. One, and it's funny that this is on our like rulebooks episode. One of my complaints is that there isn't like a turn order reference card.
There is not.
There's available actions to do, but there's not like a turn order. And I kept forgetting to pick up my freaking guests.
It happens all the time. It happens so much that I have made a house rule where as long as you are able to take a guest at the beginning of your turn, if you forget to, as long as you do it before the next player takes their guest, we'll let you do it out of order, sort of, because it happens all the time.
And that's what, like, there were so many times where it was like, it was my turn and then it would be JK's turn. In the middle of JK's turn, I would remember that I did not take a guest my previous turn, and like that one's on me for not remembering, but it frustrated the living daylights out of me because you can't get that synergy from the game that way. So that one's more on me than it is on the game.
And yet, even with you forgetting to take guests,
I still always remembered
guests to take.
I always remembered when it was a red guest, apparently. But so even when I am remembering to take a guest, I feel really restricted. I feel like I'm constantly playing this tightrope walking act of, okay, I need to open some rooms, but don't open too many rooms because you might not fill them. Take some guests, but don't take too many guests because they're going to be negative points at the end of the game, like especially on that last round. oh, the dice roll was not in my favor, so I'm going to have to do this less optimal move that really won't set me up for anything in the long run, instead of getting the food I need so I can get my guest and get them out the door.
Meanwhile, you've got the Emperor breathing down your neck, and
Yes.
you're trying to get that under control.
Yes, like that's like, because I was telling the other host at the end of our play, I was like, if I could redesign this game, I would probably change a few mechanics. I don't know if it would make a better game, to be honest. Oh, I'm not a game designer, but the Emperor track stresses me out too. Like it's already a lot to juggle without the Emperor track. That I even had us not drafting the staff members. I have never played a game where we have drafted the staff members because people always want to save time.
Yeah.
And this was the first time I actually had good staff members. And so I was excited about that. I was like, okay, maybe I have a chance this time. And I had the staff member that lets you boost your 6 and lets you play the 6s for free. Got so excited. I was like, all right, we can do it. 6 has never really had a strong power in our game that we played.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it's just like the dice roll. Like it was a mix of like restrictiveness and luck that makes me really uncomfortable as a gamer.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're saying there were too many things to do and not enough flexibility in how to get them done.
I think that's the crux of my argument.
Have you played Euros before?
I have. I know. That's what, like,
So much to do, so little time.
yeah, and I find it so fascinating. And I feel like my history of playing this game probably impacts that more than anything else, because it's like I love Euros. Like I've played so many games that kind of like fall into that like category that I do enjoy. But I think the first time I played this game, I was playing with like 3 very experienced players. And I just like felt like I was falling behind. There was like no way, like no hope, and I had no enjoyment of it all. And everyone was like so excited, and I just could not match that energy. And then the second time I played this game, we tacked on another complex expansion, the Let's Waltz expansion, when I'm barely understanding even the core mechanics of the game. And so I think like ever since those 2 plays, I've like begrudgingly like, okay, I'll play it if you guys want to.
And here's the thing about Let's Waltz. It takes this game, which is, and I'm talking about specifically the ballroom module of Let's Waltz. It takes this game, which I consider to be a light to midweight Euro, and makes it a mid to heavy Euro. There's a lot more to calculate. However, the one thing that the ballroom expansion does, which plays into one of my 2 complaints about this game. You can get into a situation where you are deadlocked on guests that are in the guest queue. If you're looking at a row of yellow guests and you have already filled up all your yellow rooms, there is no way. Those yellow guests are just going to sit there. There's no way to get rid of them. You have to put yellow guests in a yellow room, and if you don't have a yellow room, they're not going to go anywhere. With Let's Waltz, it lets you take any guest, and instead of moving them to a color matching room, put them in the ballroom. Color does not matter when guests are going to the ballroom. So the nice thing about that, it makes the game more complicated. It does solve one of the issues that I have with the game.
That's my only negative, is that I wish there was a way to mitigate that row.
Yeah.
Whether there was a way to wipe it or draw more, pay to draw more, or whatever the case may be.
And with the ballroom, you're also, I think, required to put people in there. Otherwise, it's negative points.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, you do have to.
Which
scoring
feels like another,
changes
like,
depending on which ballroom it is, but I think quite a few of them are like you need to have. Every player needs to have somebody
Like there's
in here.
like this game beats me up, and I don't expect it to. Like I expect it from like a Cthulhu game, or Battlestar Galactica, but I'm like, why is the Emperor like beating me into the ground right now?
I guess I feel like when I think about it, that I have a lot of options and flexibility is because JK mentioned you have all the 5 different actions, and then this number 6 die lets you take any of them. All those actions are also represented on the guests that you're inviting and on your staff cards. So I don't know if it was mentioned, but when you serve your guests the food they want, they don't just go up to and help fill a room. All these cards also have bonuses that trigger. And all those bonuses are kind of just mirror images of the main actions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
This guest bonus triggers, it goes up on the Emperor track. This one triggers, you get to hire a staff member for discounted cost. This
Open another room for free.
open another room for free. It's
Yeah.
all the same actions. Same thing, and a lot of times with your staff cards. Some staff cards just give you ongoing game powers, which is great, but many of them also trigger some of those same actions also. So I've always felt like if you're trying to do something, there's generally going to be a path to it somehow, because you can access those actions not just from the dice, but from these other areas
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
So, which is I've always appreciated that in the design.
How many times have you played this, James?
4,
Okay.
I think, but always with the skeleton key.
Same.
Okay. How many times have you played, JK?
A dozen.
Okay.
Or so.
I think our play was my 36th
Oh
play of
my
the game.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you had a challenge for yourself a couple of years ago to play it a certain number of times, didn't you? Like 10 times or some. It was
Yeah,
some
I did do
ridiculous
that at some
number.
point. Yeah, and I play it solo here and there too. There's a good automa for a solo game in it that I like
Nice.
well enough. I did mention I have one other complaint about the game, and this is
Yes.
so small and so petty, but it drives me up a wall. The scoring on the board goes
This is
to
a valid complaint.
75.
Yeah.
And there are 2 times it irks me. One is when you get a lot of points and you're sitting in the 53 range and you get like 34 points. Usually it's just like add the 4, add the 30, done. But then when you put that 75 in there, it's like, I can't math like that.
My brain knows
That's
no
not
math.
how I
So
jump
that's hard.
numbers in my head number line.
Also, because we log our game scores at the end, I have to. Okay, James has 75 points, but he's also at 32 on the board. So 75 plus 32, carry the 1. It's a lot of math. Look, game designers, boards should go to 50 or 100 and
Yes,
be done with it.
please.
And give us the little tokens that let us represent when you exceed and go around.
Yes, yeah. Which they do have in this game, but 75
it's 75.
is just a bizarre
Yeah.
number to have to deal with.
Yeah.
Now, I will say there are some key points that if you want to have a great game, you need to strive towards. And 2 things that stuck out in my mind after our play was one being the community goals. So I think you mentioned this, JK, but there are 3 different community goals that is first come, first serve. And the first person to achieve this goal gets, the max amount of points, then second and third person. And if we're playing 4-player game, they don't get them. But, those are like,
you just kind of looked at Emily just a little bit during that.
Yeah, I did not get a single community goal. I tried so hard, but I just couldn't get the synergy.
Well, and sometimes your board, I can't remember if we played asymmetrical boards or not. There are
We did not.
symmetrical
We did
and asymmetrical. Sometimes with the asymmetrical board,
That can give
the
someone
objectives just aren't going to, not all the objectives are going to be easily achievable for you. And then, put in the dice rolls and the staff members, and you might have a hard time getting some of those objectives.
Because that's I think I got unlucky on one of those, because one of our objectives was like hiring 6 staff, and I was like, I can do this easy peasy. And then someone else had something that like helped mitigate hiring their staff. So I'm like, okay, never mind. I'm not going to go for this. What else is there? And it was like, okay, well, it's too late to try to get 4 closed sections or something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
like 2 full rows of booked rooms, and then like first person, it was colors. I don't know, 4 blue rooms and
3 yellow.
yeah, or something like that.
Oh yeah, and the way I had designed my like rooms that were ready to check into just did not go well with those objectives, because I'm like trying to hit this other bonus, and it just
And I saw that objective, the 4 and 3, and thought, well, I'm getting blue and yellow rooms for free. This is going to be a cakewalk. But the downside was, because I wasn't getting those red guests, I had no cash to do anything. So I was sitting broke most of the game.
Yeah, money can be a difficult resource in this game. I've got games where I'm playing the 0-1 almost the whole game, just barely getting enough money to get by. I have some games where I bump it up to 20 and have enough cash to do. I will boost every die I grab.
That was
I will
the
hire
one
all the staff.
That was the one thing that went well for me during our game was I closed, there's a section of 4 red doors and I closed it and I got like 10 money.
Yeah.
And I was like,
did we even talk about the cell bonuses?
Mm-mm.
So
No, we haven't.
On your hotel, your colored rooms are grouped into cells of 1 to 4. So you might have a cell of 4 red doors like Emily was talking about. When you occupy that 4th red room in that cell, you get red rooms are money bonuses, blue rooms are points bonuses, and yellow points are the Emperor track bonuses, which can be really helpful.
Yep. So another way to access that, going up that Emperor track if you manage it.
There's just so many ways to do everything in this game.
But along with those community goals, like hitting a couple of those is really important in some form or fashion.
Mm-hmm.
But then also managing at some point during the game to have 2 is best. If you can manage more, it'd be great. But at least 2 really big turns. You can have combo-y turns in this game if you set things up properly. Because you send this guest and this guest allows me to hire a guest. Let me hire this guest that allows me to do this.
Yep.
And then, on and on and on. You can have combo-y turns.
Yeah.
It's not always easy to see it, though. But if you can have a couple of those, it can really help your progress. And I had a couple, and
I did
it
too.
feels good, too.
Yeah.
It is crunchy in that way. I spend a lot of my time. It's a game that, like, the downtime doesn't even occur to me because I'm spending so much, like, okay, let's math this out and then this out and then, oh, well, that die is gone. So now let's rearrange this. Like, I never get bored during this game. I am constantly thinking about the game state and what I can do on my next turn.
That's where, like, I feel that way about, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like Terraforming Mars, or there was another game of one of our game of the shows where I feel like I had that same comment. I don't feel that in Grand Austria. Like I am mathing it out. Let me rephrase. I am doing the mathing it out, but I don't feel like I can follow through as easily as I can in other games. Like Terraforming Mars, like my plan A, B, C, whatever, I might go down to D or E, but like my plan E is still generating me enough points to be competitive, whereas Grand Austria, you can really miss the boat.
I can't fathom why you don't enjoy this game, and I think you just don't like Austria.
Whoa. No, it's...
Shout out to our Austrian listeners.
It's very thinky, and it's very crunchy, and I will admit, I don't think I've given it enough opportunity. I feel very passionate about this game, and it's one of those where it's like, I just don't know where that passion is, hate or love right now.
Yeah. I still want to sit down and do 2-player sometime.
And I think that would be a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Like, I really think it would.
It can be helpful for this game. All right, ladies and gentlemen, any final thoughts on Grand Austria Hotel before we calculate its score on the Glee meter?
Well, I'll mention one thing. The designer is part of a group of Italian designers that have just blown up in the board game world in the last, 10 years or so. But they often develop and design games together. But if you liked this one, you should also check out Lorenzo Il Magnifico, otherwise known as
Magnificent Larry.
Magnificent Larry. It came out a year later, according to BGG, but I'll be honest, Grand Austria feels more like an evolution on Lorenzo than Lorenzo does Grand
Yeah,
Austria.
It really does.
They do definitely share some elements, though.
Yeah. So definitely, when these Italian designers come together, sometimes it's hard to tell who. There's always a lead person. These two are definitely Virginio. But if you like these games, a lot of he did Coimbra, Alma Mater. But check out Lorenzo if you like this. That's the one that shares the most DNA. But Simone Luciani is another designer that gets shared a lot on the design team.
Yeah, I feel like Luciani's name, I see his name on so many things. Unfortunately, I have friends who know I enjoy this game, and so they're like, new Luciani's, you want to try it? No, I'll just play Grand Austria instead.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's do this. I don't think it's going to be any surprise for anyone here. I am going to always keep this game. I can't imagine going more than a month without playing this. It is just a staple for me, and so it is a keep it to play here.
I feel certain it's in my top 20, if not top 10. It's a keeper for sure for me.
All right. Despite losing by 50 to 100 points every time I play this game, I'm going to keep it to play.
I am shocked.
I am too.
Because I am going to figure it out. And I think that passion is going to turn to love one of these days.
All right.
Well,
I was
good.
ready to write up the terms of our friendship divorce. So I am really surprised to hear you say that.
Dwayne, I think you should cancel the next game of the show. We'll just do this one again.
That's funny.
Well, in your defense, Emily, I'll say there are games that other people love that just don't click for me for whatever reason, and they're games that maybe I should like. This is not one of those.
Yeah.
But I've been in that seat.
Yeah.
There's other games that just click, and I do well at when I play them. Another great example is Lacrimosa. It just clicks when I play it.
Yes.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah, Lacrimosa does
So,
click for you.
when
As someone who's lost to you twice in that game, I see how it clicks
when
for
I
you.
find a Euro that just clicks in my brain, that just always makes sense, I can look at the board state and just get it and know what I want to do. It's always going to keep her for me. So this is one of those. And Deluxe Edition, reprint it, please.
Yes, please. It's so good. More people deserve to have this game. All right, that sounds like a 4 out of 4, everybody.
That's a clean sweep.
Fantastic. Okay, so
Thank
I
you
guess,
for letting me have my yell at clouds moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're
So-
here.
it feels
That's what we're
good,
here
doesn't
for.
it?
It does.
It feels good.
So let's talk about scores and what's going to happen next.
Like I said, I just did the math. I lost to the first player by over 100 points in our gameplay. So
that puts Emily at 4th place.
yes.
JK, you took 3rd place. This next part's going to be a little contested.
I'm so mad.
According to the final score of the game, the way the board played, James lost to me by 2 points. There is a chance James forgot to take 2 points when placing a hotel room on an upper level.
Oh, no.
And we just don't have a way to replay it. So,
And not only
on me.
that, if they had tied, James would have won.
James
the
would have won. James had the
tiebreaker.
tiebreaker.
And
So
I don't think I'll ever play as high of a scoring game as we played.
That was a
It
very
was
high scoring
high
game.
scoring game.
For
You know,
it- especially for it to be the base game, that was really high scoring.
yeah, it was a pretty high scoring game. We had a lot of interesting things happen in that game.
I scored a personal best of 148 points on that game, and you guys beat me by another 50.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that
was
was crazy.
192 and 190 or
194, 196.
Yeah.
there it is,
Yeah.
It was a really good game. I think James and I both played really solid.
Yeah,
and,
y'all did.
It was fun.
It was intimidating.
So, I'm gonna dust off a classic. I actually had 2 classics, a modern classics, I'll call them. But not necessarily well known. And I think the one I'm gonna go with is Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp is a rummy style Western game. Plays
What
pretty
word are you
quickly.
saying?
What's that?
What word are you saying?
Wyatt Earp.
Wyatt Earp.
Back, there was, Emily, there was this thing before your time called the Old West.
Emily is going to watch a movie called Tombstone before the next episode, so
I just
she can
can't
get familiar with this
visualize
world.
how this word is spelled.
Wyatt,
It's a name.
like the name,
Okay.
and Earp,
EARP.
like burp with an E.
Okay.
Well, sounds like burp
Okay,
with an E. Don't spell
continue.
it that way.
Dwayne, I think you've broken a seal on something for our podcast. I do not know this game at
I
all.
don't either.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. This is actually when I first discovered hobby gaming and went to an event at a store. This is one of the first games I played. And what I love about it is I hate rummy. I kind of hate like card games in general, like luck-based
I
card
love
games.
card games.
And this makes rummy strategic. But let's save that for the next episode.
All
that-
right.
Foreshadowing.
Cliffhanger.
All right.
So,
So
I look forward to losing to you again on this. So,
we'll see. We'll see what
Keep my
happens.
losing streak going.
Speaking of future games of the show, is there a game you'd like us to play, or do you have thoughts about Grand Austria Hotel or anything else we talked about on this episode? Please send emails to pod@gleefulmeeple.com. We would love to talk about your thoughts on future episodes.
So, I think we've talked enough about games that it's time to play a game on air.
yes.
No, not a board game. A game about board games. this week, our special guest Ryan has actually decided to bring a game for us.
Hey, thanks for taking the pressure off
He
of
brought
someone here.
stuff? This is awesome.
Yeah, you some meeples may know that I used to run or be a part of a podcast where we made games about games called The Leadist. That's no longer running, but I still have that urge to make games. So I could not help myself.
Ooh, okay.
And I needed to make this game for you guys. This is very simple game though. This is simple. We're not doing, hey, it's a synonym of the name and you gotta guess that. Those, whatever.
That's my game for next week.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
This is very simple. Based on the fact that we are talking about rule books, I have found a couple of board games where the theme, kind of the messaging of the board game at the start is laid out. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna start reading it, and you guys just shout out if you know what the board game is.
So it's
Flavor text.
kind of the flavor text, the tagline
It's
for
the
game.
flavor text of the board game.
Ooh.
Do you have a way to keep score, Ryan?
In my head.
Okay.
It's in my head. Zombie.
Head in my head.
Zombie.
We don't want to pay.
Keep
We don't want to pay the
score,
song rights
keep
for that.
score.
So we'll stop.
So, and I'm gonna blank out anything that has the word of the board game in it,
Yep.
or anything that would be like, okay, that's obviously this.
Gotcha.
You know what annoys me about that song though is that she says with their tanks and their bombs and their bombs
And then they're guns.
and the guns. Why?
It's like a speech.
Why do the bombs get mentioned?
She's
twice? Are
because she's emphasizing the bombs, and they're bombs.
I mean,
And
and,
their
the
bombs.
bombs.
Did I mention the bomb?
Yeah, did I mention bombs? All right. Okay, you guys ready for this?
Yes.
All right. First one. Again, shout it out if you know the answer. Since its inception in 2174, the world government has continually strived for global unity and peace.
Is it anarchy?
Our mission is to
Anachrony?
be
No.
humanity's shared tool for shaping a better future.
Twilight Imperium.
Tapestry.
Earth is overpopulated and resources...
Terraforming Mars.
There it is.
Oh,
Terraforming
wow.
Mars.
Interesting.
Earth is overpopulated and resources are dwindling. We now face the choice either to recede or to expand into space to find new homes for humanity.
Point for JK.
Point for
please.
JK. All right. Next one. Life is bustling in the local blank. Animals scurry around
Arc
the
Nova.
clearing looking for edible plants and insects. Some enjoy the dense treetops, while others prefer
Is
the
it
lush
Cascadia?
undergrowth and only feel comfortable in
Meadow.
the shelter
Evolution.
of trees.
Um,
Mm-mm.
Bosk.
No.
Arboretum.
I was about to say, this is James.
All right. I'm going to give, so once no one can get it, I will go for another hint.
Okay.
This is a card game. It is a game that we have mentioned already in this podcast.
Mm.
Sleeping Dogs.
Is it Fun Facts?
Can you read it one more, or the beginning part again?
Actually, it may not have been in the it may have been the prelude. It's in the it was in the Nerds Day sale that you were saying.
oh.
Okay.
Card game.
With
I did not want to be tempted to
animals.
buy anything, so I
I
kind
didn't-
of
I
shut
wasn't
down.
listening, yeah.
You
yeah.
gotta
Four shuffle.
it is for shuffle.
Hey,
Yeah,
way to go,
for
James.
shuffle. All right, here we go. This one's fun. I love games doing this. Queen Gimnax has ordered the reclamation of the northern lands. As a blank in her service, you are sent to map this territory, claiming
Honeybuzz.
for the kingdom of Nalos. Through official edicts, the queen announces which lands she prizes.
Cartographers?
That's it.
Yes.
You got it just ahead of me, Dwayne.
That's good.
There's a lot more. Do you want to hear the rest of this or pass? All right.
I went the wrong direction on that. I thought worker bee. You send out to go find stuff. Yeah.
All right. America in the 19th century. You are a rancher in a very far
Great Western Trail.
Yes, that's right.
Well done,
That's all you
James.
needed to hear.
Yeah.
All right, this one is interesting because I had to snip it and paste. So here we go. At the end of the 16th century, King Manuel, I commissioned Portugal's greatest artisans to construct.
Puerto
It's
Rico?
Greta.
Hold on. I'm now seeing the folly of the shouted out. What was said?
He said Sagrada. I said Azul.
I said Azul before JK said Azul.
And James said something too, right?
I'm wrong. Whatever I said.
James is like, "Don't worry about it."
It may be one of those could be right, but there may be a version of it. That
Sagrada Artisan.
A stool.
Stained glass of
Stained
Sintra.
glass of Sintra.
Oh yeah, that's what I should have gone with.
No.
Azul Queen's Gardens.
No.
Azul
Summer
Pavilion.
Pavilion.
Yes, Summer Pavilion. Give it to M.
Oh, I didn't even hear Emily on that one. Way to go, Emily.
On a blustery autumn evening, 5 old friends met in the back room of one of the city's oldest and most private clubs.
Gloomhaven.
Each had traveled a long distance from all corners of the world to meet on this very specific day, October 2nd, 1900. 28 years to the day that London's eccentric Phileas Fogg accepted in his
Around the world in 80 days.
€20,000 bet that he could travel around the world in 80 days. When the story of Fogg triumph's journey filled all the newspapers of the day, the 5 attended universities together. Inspired by this impetuous gamble and a few pints from the local pub, the group commemorated its circumnavigation with a most moderate excursion and wager. A bottle of good claret, to the first to make it to Le Procope in Paris. Each succeeding year, they met to celebrate the anniversary and pay tribute to Fogg, and each year a new expedition, always more difficult, with a new wager, always more expensive, was proposed. Now, at the dawn of the century, it is time for a new impossible journey. The stakes, $1 million in a winner-takes-all competition, the object to see which of them would travel by rail to the most cities in North America in just 7 days.
Is this Ticket to Ride?
It's Ticket to Ride.
What?
This is Ticket to Ride.
Man, Ticket to Ride has your lore, y'all.
Kidding me.
Wow.
Dang. Days of Wonder, bringing it.
Was that base Ticket to Ride?
That's based Ticket
Oh
to
my
Ride.
God.
Yeah.
I kind of would rather watch that movie than play Ticket to Ride. That sounds fantastic.
That sounds like a miniseries on PBS or something.
I was reading that and was like, this is gold.
How do we have a movie based on Battleship and that is sitting right there?
Gold.
Wow.
All right. Next one. Subject should be held individually in a blank-shaped container that cannot be observed from the outside, except during the experiment. Strictly refrain from keeping
this Cat in the Box?
Yes, it is Cat in the Box.
Let's both take a
We'll
point
both take
on
a
that
point,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty close.
Oh, the cat.
Cat. Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
Stranger's cat.
Yep. Okay, this one's fun. I like it. You may get it right away.
Okay, never mind. Continue.
The guard looked Bartholomew Keiss up and down for a moment and frowned. I'm sorry, Master Keiss, but the princess is not seeing visitors at this time. She is, of course.
Love letter?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Well done, JK.
There is a lot.
It's 4 pages?
It's
Oh
4
my.
pages.
Which Love Letters first player decider rule is whoever went on a date the most recently?
With a princess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Love Letter has an amazing opening to it that's like, oh, okay, I dig it.
I realize now how much I skip over this part of the rule book. I'm like, I need to get to it.
I always read it and Emily hates it so much.
But this is why James got mad that an important rule was in some flavor text.
All right. This one will, I think I just need to say the first part and it will be gotten. Explore, settle, develop, trade, consume, or produce. What did you say?
Puerto Rico?
No.
San Juan.
Settlers of Catan.
No. Which do you need the most? Which of Earth's former colonies will be most successful at settling the blank? Now that the jump drive exists, who will discover the secrets of the mysterious vanished alien overlords? Your goal, to build the most prosperous...
Race for the Galaxy.
Yes, there it is.
Oh.
There's so many things that could
I couldn't remember. We had the right genealogy.
All right. A long time ago, in a sleepy town of blank, during a hellish thunderstorm...
Blood on the Clock Tower.
Mhm.
Now that is one I have read that intro a lot on. So
yeah, that was for our Blood on the Clock Tower fans. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I will pander to you. Please don't hurt me. Guide the growth of your civilization as new ideas emerge. Take great strides forward in the many fields
Age of innovation.
human achievements
Inventions?
to build an empire more glorious
Mosaic.
like any other. Skilled artisans, philosophers, warriors, and architects from
Seven
various
Wonders?
cultures
Tapestry
bring their genius to aid you in their endeavors.
through the ages.
But it's
Innovation.
rests with you to choose the best citizens to
Terra
build your strength
Mystica.
and
Hadara?
prestige.
Citadel.
Hadara! Wow. I was kind of eyeballing you a little bit. I was like, James knows this. Yeah.
Took me a
He
second.
really, I really like that game.
I love that
Yeah,
game.
That game is a lot of fun.
well, I think we're running low on time, so I'm going to go ahead and take the win on it.
wait. That's my comeback.
All right. The world famous French city known for its imposing.
Carcassonne.
Yes.
Dang it.
Maybe I should have blanked out
And
French.
there goes my comeback.
We talked a lot about French games.
All right. Okay. After 2 fruitless days of searching empty oceans, a smudge on the horizon, barely discernible among the sparkling waves, gave me a glimmer of hope. As we drew near, a flock of brilliant scarlet birds flew toward the
Robinson
vessel,
Crusoe.
chirping and whistling as though in welcome. Consulting her charts, our navigator assured us that the island was indeed as
Sleeping
yet
gods?
uncharted. Her words supported
Is
as
this
a
Settlers of
hypothesis
Catan?
we all silently shared. Those rugged plateaus, that verdant jungle.
Lost Ruins of Arnak.
This
I was
could
just
be
about to
us.
say that. I was
Well
just
done,
about to say
JK.
that.
Good job, JK. All right. Something terrible is happening. People are dying. Everyone is panicking.
Arkham horror of some
You
flavor.
try to find something, anything, to use as a weapon.
Final
Cthulhu Death
girl.
may die.
A scared teenager's nearby, pleading with you to help them escape. Then suddenly you hear a noise. You look around, trying to see who or what is there. But it's so dark. Without warning, the killer appears
Dead by Daylight.
and decapitates the teenager,
Oh,
whose
no.
wide-eyed head rolls and
Camp
stops
Grizzly.
at your feet. The killer points at you without saying a word before turning to find another victim. You run the other way. Escape, your only thought. The screams of the dying ringing in your ears. Carnage and death surround you.
Horrified?
And your only escape route is blocked.
Dead of Winter.
It is then that you realize there is only one reality. Kill or be killed. Everyone else is dead. You are the
This isn't
blank.
Final Girl.
Final girl.
It is
I
fi-
said Final
He
Girl.
said-
I sorry, I was reading.
Yeah.
I was reading. I didn't hear.
Yeah.
Really into it.
I was like, this
I was
has
like,
to be
wow.
Final Girl,
Yeah,
right?
sorry.
That's okay. That
I
was
really
that
wanted
was
to read that whole thing.
Yeah, that
actually.
was very good.
So yeah. Sorry, not sorry. All right. Final one.
What's the score going into the final?
All right, going to the final one.
jeez.
JK at 4. I have 6. James has 4. Emily has
Okay.
1.
Okay.
This is worth 10 points.
Okay.
There we go.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Commodore Sean Chen floats in the void, protected only by his spacesuit.
Space.
Space.
Dear Lord, are you kidding me?
Conversation.
Well done, James.
10 points.
10 points to James. And our winner, I think, is Dwayne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took
There
it
we
by 1 point. Way
There
to
you go.
Way to,
Yes.
Good job on Space, James.
Dear Lord, how the heck did you get that?
I've done some research on Space.
Well, I mean, I know you guys had it on the podcast, but that's why I wanted to include it. But I was like, there's no way they read the flavor of this.
Nope. One of the key points I made was, did y'all know that we're commodores of space stations?
Yeah, I remember that coming up.
That's fair. That's fair.
Ryan, thank you so much for the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you for visiting us. We will see you at our next event.
Oh, yeah. I think we have some coming up.
Yay.
Awesome, Ryan. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, I think that'll do it for today.
Are we done for the night?
Whoa.
Oh.
No, we can't be done.
I think so.
Except
I
for
mean,
the game, but yeah. But,
Okay.
but recording wise, we're
I'm having
good.
too much fun.
Well,
But-
we'd like to
Don't stop.
we'd like to thank our sponsor for the episode. That would be Minolta Cameras. Minolta, images everything. you have to own a Minolta camera because where else would you ever find something that takes pictures?
This is the first time. This is the first time our sponsor has of the show has clued me in that a company is gone. I did not know Minolta was no more.
Did you really?
I did not.
All right.
It sounds like
Kodak's still okay, right?
Kodak, other than the film production side, do they still make Kodak film?
I think so. Anyway,
Did you know I learned recently that there was actually a Kodak engineer that developed a digital camera and brought it to the executives, and they said, "Don't do that. We're not in that business."
Whoops.
Yeah. Oops. By the time this episode comes out, guys, you should be hearing this for the first time on August 30th. August 30th is Nerds Day. If you woke up early enough and got to hear this podcast, get online at GameNerds.com. James, tell us a little bit about Nerds Day.
Every year, they have a crazy huge sale. It used to be once a year. Now they're actually doing it twice a year in 6-month intervals, and just offering maybe a few items less each time. But
I didn't know that, and that's awesome.
Yeah, yep. So they're spacing it out a little bit over the course of the year. They release clues leading up to Nerds Day, so it's already started. They start giving out little clues about what the games might be, and every hour they drop huge chunks of discounted games, accessories, whatever it is, and these are like hot games at major cut prices.
Wow.
And so not to go too far down the weeds on that, if you want to participate and you're wanting to add to your game collection, get some new recent hot releases sometimes, go to Game Nerds, set up an account, get your credit card stored on file on your account. It's helpful just so you can check out quickly. And when you check out, you will choose the on hold option. That way you can check out multiple times, never have to deal with shipping. And then when it's all said and done, you can release all your holds at once.
Nice.
But go do it now. Time is wasting. This is only a one day every 6 months thing. Why are you still listening to us? Oh my God, get out of here.
Go.
Hey,
Bye, Gleeples.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.